This is the Harley Benton EMG HT Roasted SBK. With a name almost as long as its list of specs, this guitar seems like an absolute no-brainer for players who want a serious metal guitar on a budget, but can it actually deliver? Welcome back my dudes, it's awesome to see you. I'm Jack, and recently I said this. Final thoughts? I don't think you should waste your money on this guitar. Let's talk about what you should spend your hard-earned cash on instead. First, the Harley Benton Fusion 3 EMG HT Roasted. You will not get a more spec'd out brand new guitar for the same price as this one. After being super disappointed with a budget Ibanez I checked out recently, I suggested this guitar is something you should be spending your money on instead. Well, I decided to put my money where my mouth is and see whether I was right to recommend this guitar, so it's not only my pride on the line but my cash too. On paper, this Harley Benton's got specs to rival guitars that are like 3 times its price. We've got locking tuners, Graph Tech nut, Canadian roasted flame maple neck and fingerboard, stainless steel frets, luminescent side dots, EMG retroactive pickups and a hip shot style bridge, and it's 400 quid shipped. How is that possible? Well, I've actually been doing some of my own research on that, and by research I mean googling frantically to try and find some answers, and it actually makes loads of sense. With most guitar brands like Ibanez, Schecter, Fender, whoever it is really, the prices we're so used to paying have got these other extra costs baked in. Aside from the manufacturing costs, there's like marketing and distribution to think about, but Harley Benton don't have that. As far as I know, Thomann is the biggest music retailer in the world, and being their house brand, Harley Benton have got their already established distribution system and their reputation to ride on. And in terms of marketing, the ability to price the instruments so low with these outrageous specs is advertising in itself. You know as well as I do that word of mouth travels super quick in the guitar community, so if an instrument's good, then we're all going to find out about it. What that means is we're just paying for the guitar's manufacture and then the profit margin, which is actually a really super sweet deal for us if the guitar's actually good. First things first, it's obvious this guitar looks mean and the build quality is great. The main thing that got me interested in the Fusion T rather than its sibling the Fusion 3 is that this has got some serious Jim Root Telecaster vibes with a few little changes here and there. I actually used to have the white Jim Root Tele, and I'm not going to lie, there's a bit of seller's remorse there because that guitar was sick. So this is going to sound absolutely crazy to some of you, but this guitar is much closer to that Fender Jim Root Tele than most would imagine, so I'm going to use that as a frame of reference. To start, there's the configuration. EMG retroactive Hot 70s pickups, 3-way selector switch, hardtail bridge and a T-style body. There's obviously quite a few similarities there, but there are some differences in the materials used. This body's Nyato rather than mahogany, and then the neck and board on this are roasted maple rather than being straight maple and ebony. Surprisingly though, the QC on this guitar is actually better than the Jim Root Tele I owned. That guitar had several quality control issues, whereas this has only got one tiny issue that I could find. It looks like a ding at first, but actually I think there was a small dent in the body before spraying because I can't find any evidence of like cracking or impact. Other than that and some very minor tooling marks on the board, I can't find any other problems. The routing's really tidy, the frettings are great, everything feels super solid, and it's a really nice weight. It's not too heavy in any way, but it feels substantial and premium, and I absolutely love seeing a T-style guitar blacked out too, dude. There's something about taking a traditional shape and then like contrasting it with a super aggressive vibe that just really does something for me. And the open core EMG retroactives look sick coupled with just like the all black everything else. It just means business, dude. Like at a glance you know exactly what you're getting into. And while we're talking about the paint, it's worth noting that satin and matte finishes tend to be quite a bit cheaper because they don't require all the work that a gloss does with all the extra coats and the polishing, but that can make them a bit weaker. That does seem to be the case with what I found online.
I gotta check if I did that, but it shouldn't really just, flake off there that easily. So if you get one like this, that's the cool thing about the internet and Thomann, you just send it back and said, give me one with all the paint. Done.
I've seen a couple of examples where the paint's chipped quite easily, but obviously it's too early for me to tell just yet, but keep that in mind. So the neck and the fretboard were the first things that I noticed when I unboxed this guitar, just because of how dark the roast is on this particular one. At first I wasn't too stoked to be honest, but actually it is growing on me the more I see it. And these pieces of wood aren't the flamiest examples I've seen either, but they do still look really good. It basically is just luck of the draw when you order as to how flamey yours will be. Some of them I've seen are absolutely insane and others not so much. Overall, fit and finish here is just way above what you'd expect to get for 400 quid, but it is actually what I've come to expect from my recent experience with Harley Bentons. So the similarities to the Jim Root Telecaster don't stop at just the looks. I can't believe that I'm actually saying this, but the playing experience is almost identical. I know that I actually just compared an Harley Benton to a Fender, but I'm not pissed up or anything, I promise you.
I don't know where I felt like I get a little drink around. care, do you, bud?
I can explain. You see, the neck profile on this Fusion feels so close to the Jim Root Telly. In fact, from memory, it feels like it's almost exactly the same, but it has been quite a while since I played that guitar. It's a really round, super Fendery C profile, and I think if you got both necks made out of the same material, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell a difference. If anything, this neck probably feels a little bit fatter. It is absolutely not a shredder's neck. It's got some chunk to it and it really fills out the hand. Personally, I do prefer a thinner neck than this. I do get repetitive strain injury flare-ups quite often. I'm actually dealing with one at the moment, and necks this size do have a tendency to fatigue my hand and arm quite a bit. That said, when I'm playing this guitar, it feels good, man. If you do like a chunkier neck, then you'll absolutely love this dude, but if you don't care either way, then it's still a really comfortable playing experience. But if you exclusively play guitars with thin necks, then this one probably isn't for you. And while we're talking about the neck, let's get onto the stainless steel frets. Stainless is far more difficult for manufacturers to work with just because of how tough it is, so when you put that on a budget-friendly guitar, people often say that they're a little bit rough to play on at first. It's been reported by a few great guitar guys here on YouTube that their stainless equipped Harley Bentons had pretty gritty frets and took a little while to play in. This one though, it's actually pretty good. They were a little bit rougher towards the lower end of the neck compared to above the 10th fret, but they're still far better than most affordable guitars. And the actual leveling, crowning and fretting job is quality, dude. While I was restringing this to an heavier gauge so that I could drop tune it, I just used some Dunlop fret polishing cloths. I use them on pretty much all my guitars on their first setup, or if I've not played them in a while, because they just polish the frets up to a nice shine and it takes absolutely no effort. Seriously, grab some for your next setup, you will not regret it. It's in no way necessary to do that on this guitar, but for the sake of a few quid and like 5 to 10 minutes work, it'll make your playing experience so much better. Other than that, the guitar is super comfortable. The bevels and cutaways are a welcome addition to the Telecaster shape, but there is one thing that Harley Benton did far better than Fender did on the Jim Root. The neck heel on the Jim Root is just an attempt at making a Fender neck heel feel playable, and it really does nothing for playability. The Harley Benton version is an actual real effort to make upper fret access easier on a Telecaster, and it works really well. They actually did a really good job. And the last thing in terms of playability is that this guitar just stays in tune with like no issues at all. The super comfortable and solid feeling Ipshot style bridge coupled with a Graphtec nut and locking tuners just means it'll stay in tune for days, man. That is exactly what we want. So what does it sound like? The EMG retroactive Hot 70s pickups are not your average EMG, but you're definitely still getting the EMG sound. They're hot, understatement of the year. They're slightly compressed, and that gives them tons of clarity throughout the whole range of frequencies. I mean, if you're looking at picking up this guitar, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you want to play some heavy It does exactly that, but they're much more dynamic than like your classic 8160 set or something like that. It's the 70s bit of the name that gives it away, really. They're tuned to give a more classic sort of passive sound that you'd hear on iGain tunes from that era, but in a modern metal context they work so well, dude. They have got a passive type quality to them, but with more warmth and dynamics than the more commonplace EMG pickup sets, and I do like that a lot. Actually, they're not a million miles away from the Jim Root Damon and pickup set that I've got in my SG mod project, and I really like those pickups. To my ears, the Hot 70s are a little bit lower output, but you're getting a very similar experience. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Harley Benton chose to use this specific set of pickups in a guitar that really wears its influences on its sleeve. I mean, the Jim Root Damon set were based on the EMG retroactives, so yeah. But they're not just for super dirty, crushing riffs. I've always really liked the clean tones that you get from EMGs, and I know there's a few of you that do too, so the good news is that these do that stuff really well. That compression and responsiveness that I talked about earlier really gives EMG clean tones something special, and these have got it in truckloads, man. They are a versatile and all-round quality set of rock and metal humbuckers, and I think they suit this guitar perfectly. So let's finish up with my spicy take on this guitar, and remember, I did pay for it myself, and no one's blackmailing me to say this. Having owned both a Made in Mexico Jim Root Telly and this Harley Benton, this is gonna get me cancelled, man. I'd like this guitar more. That's it. I said it now. I don't know if that speaks to the quality of this guitar or the fact that the Jim Root's a bit overpriced. Maybe it's both. All I can tell you is that I would pick this over a Fender Jim Root Telly because it's the better option. If you can put the logo on the headstock to one side and just take the guitar at the value it provides and how it plays, this not only feels and sounds just as good as the Fender, but the quality control was better. it's got better specs, and it was 400 quid. I mean, that is not at all the conclusion I was expecting to come to. Like, I had high expectations for this guitar, but not that high. You can roast me in the comments if you want, but I implore you to play both of these guitars and tell me that you don't see what I'm talking about. The two big things that I like most about this guitar are the roasted maple neck and the hip shot style bridge. I don't rate the Fender fixed bridges highly anyway, and the feel and stability of the roasted maple is just something that I like way more. It's also much more comfortable too, which is a massive plus on a T-style because they're not the most comfortable guitars anyway. Well, that's me on Fender's blacklist forever. Don't expect to see them on the channel unless I buy them myself. But if you're looking for an affordable metal guitar, this is it, dude. If the thicker neck isn't a problem and the name on the headstock doesn't bother you as long as it's a sick guitar, this should be a first choice, man, seriously. But what do you think? Am I completely out of my mind? Let me know in the comments because I love chatting with you, and it's always cool to hear your takes on this sort of stuff. While I go and play some Slipknot on this thing, YouTube thinks you'll like this video next, so why not give that a shot? In the meantime, mate, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Take care, stay safe. I'll see you later. Prices we're so used to paying have got these little... I actually used to have the... But there are some differences in the materials you... Fret ends are great and... Everything's... Fret ends are great and everything feels... I keep fucking banging it on there. Fretboard were the first things that I noticed when I unboxed this guitar, just because of how dirk. Oh my god. Fit and finish here is just... This Fusion feels... I just got some Jim Dunlop. Is there a little bit lower output than...